Hello, I'm HKellstrom, and I have performed some research using the National Assessment of Educational Progress called the NAEP to determine any impacts or trends that teacher professional development activities may have on fourth grade student scaled reading scores. Please excuse my illness. I have been under the weather for quite a few days, so I'll do my best to keep my coughs to a minimum. I'm going to share my screen now so that I can share with you my research findings. So, as mentioned before, this research study was conducted to examine the impact the teacher-reported professional development activities on the 2015 NAEP for fourth grade reading scores for both Michigan and nationally. Raising academic standards for all students and measuring student achievement is at the cornerstone of educational progress and promoting excellence and equity in our nation's schools. In fact, the state of Michigan, through the direction of Dr. Brian Whiston, the current state of Michigan school superintendent, he has set a lofty goal of becoming a top 10 in 10 years to put Michigan on the map as a premier educational state. Additionally, a long-debated third grade reading bill was signed into law by the governor in October of 2016 in the state of Michigan. Thus, as districts around Michigan feel mounted pressure from a variety of stakeholders to create additional programs and services to support increased student literacy skills on or before the third grade, it is important to assess current best practices and see what trends emerge. The research questions that I addressed in my study was one, what is the impact on student-scaled reading scores when teachers receive professional development on the content of reading? So it was a content-based question. Two, what is the impact on the student-scaled reading scores when teachers receive professional development through traditional means such as a college course, conference, or workshop training that dealt with the traditionally known PD that many of us would have participated in if you're a teacher. Three, what is the impact on the student-scaled reading scores when teachers receive professional development in a collaborative teacher setting? And that would have been, these are newer types of PD where you get together and learn together and share together and make meaning together. Four, what is the impact of student-scaled reading scores when a literacy coach provides individual support to a teacher on reading content, and that is having a literacy coach in your classroom for support. And then number five, what is the impact on student-scaled reading scores when a literacy coach conducts group professional development about reading content? And that is offering PD through a literacy coach. Some researchers feel that the learning to read is one of the most critical processes students are involved in within an elementary school setting. Reading is a very complex process that requires both cognitive and metacognitive skills, as well as a host of other reading skills and strategies. Darling et al. 2009 state that professional development is an important strategy for ensuring that teachers are equipped to support deep and complex student learning in their classrooms. However, research shows there's great variation into the extent to which professional development programs accomplish this goal. Thus, the researchers cited below on this slide have demonstrated through studies that professional development that has shown an impact on student achievement is focused on content, collaborative learning, and coaching and other expert support. Excuse me. The NAEP is the largest nationally representative and continuing assessment of what America's students know and can do in a variety of subject areas. The data extracted from the NAEP Data Explorer tool for 2015 was the teacher questionnaires on teacher-reported training and also student reading data. Regarding the participants in sampling, there were 139,100 fourth grade students Samples were drawn from public and private schools nationwide. The sample selection was a probability design, and the results were weighted to make appropriate inferences between student samples and adjusted for the disproportionate representation of some groups in the selected sample. Since this research study is somewhat related to Michigan's new third grade reading bill, before reviewing the data findings, it is important to show the overall reading snapshot for the state of Michigan for fourth grade students in comparison to the fourth grade students in the nation for the 2015 NAEP. As illustrated in Table 1, the average sales score for national students was statistically significantly higher than the average scale score for Michigan. Also, please note that the average scale score in Michigan was lower than those in 35 states' jurisdictions, higher than 2 states' jurisdictions, and not significantly different from those in 14 states' jurisdictions. Additionally, the last 3 NAEP reading assessments have shown Michigan trending downward on fourth grade student average scaled reading scores. Excuse me. Regarding research question 1, what is the impact on the scaled reading scores when teachers receive professional development on the content of reading? The content professional development on the NAEP revolved around the following 3 teacher-reported questionnaire items. Learned about content standards, learned about curricular materials, and learned about how students learn to read. As illustrated in Table 5, at the state of Michigan level, there was no statistical significance for both content or curriculum-based PD. However, there was statistical significance reported on the learned how students learn to read, and that the average scale score for Michigan Learn Low, meaning teachers had little to no PD on learning how to learn how students learn to read, was significantly higher than the average scale score for Michigan Learn High, meaning those teachers had a moderate or high level of training, professional development training. Furthermore, that same pattern occurred on the national data set. Regarding research question 2, what is the impact on student scale reading scores when teachers receive professional development through traditional means, such as through course, conference, or workshop training? The traditional PD on the NAEP revolved around the following 3 teacher-reported questionnaire items. Took a college course after certification in teacher language arts, participated in a workshop or training session for teaching language arts, attended a conference on teaching language arts. As illustrated in Table 7, there was no statistical significance for all 3 categories of traditional PD offerings at the state of Michigan level. The same findings held true for the national data set. Regarding research question 3, what is the impact on the student scaled reading scores when teachers receive professional development in a collaborative teacher setting? The collaborative staff PD on the NAEP revolved around the following 3 teacher-reported questionnaire items. Mentoring or peer observation for teaching language arts, participating in a regular discussion or study group in teaching language arts, sitting on a committee or curriculum for teaching language arts. As shown on the slide, there was no significant statistical significance found for the teachers who participated or did not participate in any of the 3 reviewed categories related to the collaborative staff PD. As illustrated on Table 9, statistical significance was reported at the national level for teachers participating in a mentoring or peer observation for teaching language arts activity was significantly lower than a teacher who did not participate in a mentoring or peer observation for teaching language arts activity. Regarding research question number 4, what is the impact on student-scaled reading scores when a literacy coach provides individual support to a teacher on reading content? First of importance, both research questions 4 and 5, the data analysis was drawn from the national data set only because these types of positions are not prevalent in Michigan, thus lacking data. As illustrated in Table 10, statistical significance was reported for a national teacher not working with a literacy coach for individual support about reading was significantly higher than a national teacher working with a literacy coach for individual support about reading, moderate to high extent. Regarding research question number 5, what is the impact on the student scaled reading scores when a literacy coach conducts group professional development about reading content? As noted on the slide, there was no statistical significance with national teachers participating in group PD provided by a literacy coach versus national teachers not participating in a group PD provided by a literacy coach. Learning through professional development activities is of great interest in the field of education and serves as a fundamental way to support the ever-changing and complex skills students need to demonstrate not only on the state and federal, but also for college and career readiness. Thus, creating and implementing effective PD activities are needed to help teachers learn and refine the content and pedagogies required to teach, facilitate these skills. Therefore, when you look at this slide, the average scale score in reading for 4th grade students in Michigan is trending downward. Therefore, there's a need for a planned literacy strategy. Teachers receiving no or small amount of professional development training on how students learn to read, the content portion of the PD, was significantly higher than teachers that participated in professional development from a moderate or a large extent for both the Michigan and national 4th grade students for their average scaled scores and readings. This tells us that there's a need for coherence for teachers and alignment in the professional development that they are receiving. For teachers who did not participate, excuse me, teachers who did not participate in a mentoring or peer observation for teaching language arts professional development activity, one of the collaborative PDs, was not statistically significant for Michigan, but significantly lower than teachers that did not participate in a mentoring or peer observation for teaching language arts activity for the national 4th grade students for average scaled reading scores. Thus, greater guidance around peer mentoring becomes important. Lastly, teachers who did not, or to a small extent, work with a literacy coach was significantly higher than teachers who worked with a literacy coach to a moderate or large extent to support reading content for the national 4th grade students for average scale scores in reading. Therefore, development of a literacy and coaching model becomes important. At the state of Michigan level, they should consider mining data through the NAEP Data Explorer for professional development data. At the school level, districts should consider adopting professional development standards and also developing detailed protocols for collaborative professional development activities. For the field of P20 education, it becomes important to make a commitment to the development of a common framework for conducting further research on the effectiveness of professional development. And finally, it becomes important to redesign and further develop more specific questions on the NAEP teacher questionnaire that will revolve around the details of professional development implementation so that further studies can be linked and grown together and practices improved. Thanks for listening to my research findings. If you want more information, feel free to contact me by phone. Hopefully my cold didn't scare you away or you didn't get it. Have a good night.